It's Cumulus. Yeah, fancy name. Okay, please introduce yourself. So under the canopy, that's Nee.
Hey guys, I'm Nee.
Further away is Dylan. Where are your other team members?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the camera.
Yep, Valentina and Sam.
Yeah, hello, my name is Sam.
Okay, you're on top of the canopy. All right, you're on the walkway. Valentina's missing.
Yes, sorry, I'm just trying to. Okay, bye. I'm Valentina.
All right, cool. It's your time now.
All right. All right. All right, here we go. So hey guys, my name is Nee. This is Sam, Valentina, and Dylan, and today we're here to present our project called Cumulus. So the Swinburne Hawthorne campus is where we are working on, located in John Street, Hawthorne. The red highlighted areas indicate the location of the AB building where we will be redesigning. So here are some closer views of the AB building. The orange highlighted areas showcase the back courtyard, the hallway on the ground floor, all the way to the main foyer, up the stairs, and onto the hallway of the first floor. This specific area is where we will be redesigning. So upon visiting the location, we noticed not much interaction occurred within the building itself and the people around it, as majority of the pedestrians would rather go around the building to get to their destination. So with this in mind, we wanted to create not only an interactive with the building, but also with the environment around it. We also realized that the building itself was very condensed and rectilinear, so we wanted to change it up by having a free-flowing experience, and that is why we came up with this idea.
So our concept for our design is to change the spatial experience for people moving in and out of parts of the AB building. We want to transform their regular, rectilinear and rigid journey to a more soft and lightweight and more enjoyable experience.
Yes. So start off with the ground floor. Our strategy here is to change the garden bed, and we also reconstruct it back with organic shape, like you can see here in the blue highlighted. On the first floor, we decided to remove the entire floor plate, including the staircase that highlighted in red, so that we could bring the organic and fluid form to our design. By doing this, it allowed the ground floor and the first floor to have a special connectivity.
So here we can see the form that we began to design. You can see where it sits on the site and how it's in both the interior and exterior space. And the design aims to promote spatial connectivity. The arrows indicate to see where users can travel through the building by going either under the structure, within the structure, or on top of the structure, and then spreading out to the courtyard and canopy area.
So at first, we envisioned a form that was bubbly and soft, something that contrasted to the AB building. This fluid form allows people to travel in, under, and over it, allowing individuals to be fully immersed within the new structure. Our design process for our form, as seen in this diagram, is taking shapes out of the soft structure to create a clear passage for people. People traveling within the existing areas of the AB building will be drawn to this organic structure as it is completely different to the untouched areas. People will emerge into the form and automatically have a more enjoyable experience. So from these drawings, you can see how we are wanting to transform the existing rectilinear space to a more organic and fluid area. This design proposal motivates people to come inside and interact with the new space as it draws people's attention from its beautiful organic and flowing qualities, whilst increasing the curiosity as to how to travel within it.
So our main precedents we took inspiration from was the Metropole Parasol designed by Jürgen Mayer. We considered its construction method by exploring waffling sections as our design was challenging due to its organic shape. However, by sectioning and breaking it down into flat sections, this method would be much more simple and easy to be fabricated and reconstructed.
So we began to play around with some of the parameters of the design. We looked at changing the angles of the sections, as well as playing around with the density of the sections to see how this would affect the form. So looking at these variables, it gave us an idea of what the structure would begin to look like.
However, no matter how much we change the density, these two layers make the form look too solid. So we decided to remove one of the layers to increase the transparency and lightness to our design and allow more visual permeability to the form. In order to waffle construction purpose, since we removed one layer, we propose a new construction method by using this interlocking metro dowel to connect the pieces. As a result, you can see here that it allows a lot more visual permeability in our structure depending on the view angle. So you can achieve variation of transparency and brightness. So here's the GIF video of our proposed structure showing that what I just mentioned on previous page. Yeah, this final ground floor plan showed the location of the column and the new staircase in foyer area that lead to the first floor. And the right drawing is the first floor plan that show our proposed floor and structure.
So here we have an example of a section highlighting the alternate experience when traveling under, on top, or within the structure. Noting that the spiral stairwell in the front foyer space is where users can travel inside the structure for a brief moment. And the render on the right is an interior shot of that front foyer area. Another section of the outdoor canopy space highlighting, the section which highlights the relationship between the hallway that connects the outside canopy space to the internal foyer section. And it also demonstrates how it might feel when you're walking either on top or underneath the structure. This is another section of the outdoor canopy area highlighting the dynamic of the new courtyard area, as well as a render of this area that you can also take note of the choice of the glass flooring that we've used. This section is of the front foyer, and you can see how it has the stairwell where users will walk through, as well as the renders showing its interaction with the historical facade. This is an elevation of the entire structure, and it's just been put into a section of the model just to provide some context, as well as a render of the outside canopy space. Again, another elevation with the site of context, and this render highlighting the new atmosphere of the courtyard, as well as the shadows that will be cast onto the floor. Again, another elevation of this outside courtyard and a render to go with it. And yeah, just some more renders of the final structure.
Yes, so these are some of the main materials we would use for our project, such as Curto LVL, which is the wood type being used to create the Metropole. Other materials included laminated glass for our flooring, metal brackets, and steel pipes to hold our structure together.
With the construction, each panel is connected to another panel with a series of steel pipe that has a range between 500 millimeter to 1 meter, and each steel pipe are welded to 3 millimeter round steel plate and bolted into the structure. From our research, the largest panel that we can go for is 16 meter by 3.4 meter. This is why we divided the panel that larger than that side into two pieces and join them back together. And the stainless steel handrail will go around the footpath area on our structure, and it will be hold onto every panel to make it steady.
Here we have a drawing of the glass flooring system. We chose glass so that we didn't lose the transparency or dynamic lighting effects produced by the design. At the top of the page, you can see a plan view of the series of glass panels with all its individual pieces, and they'll also be aligned with the angle of the wood panels to reduce the impact on the design. And looking at the section, you can see a cutout on each of the wooden panels for the glass to sit in perfectly flush, and it'll also be siliconed to the structure.
For our wall connection, we use metal brackets that would be drilled to the wall, while the brackets itself would have multiple diagonal pieces that will slot together with the structure, again being drilled to hold it in place.
So for the ground system of the outside column, we decided to connect it to the ground by metal plates and a concrete footing. The footing will be dug into the ground and located in one of the garden beds, and the 4-meter metal plates will be half in the footing and the other half outside, connecting it to the structure. So the metal plates will connect to the individual curved LVL by various right-angled brackets.
Yep, and here's just some more rendered views to finish off the presentation. Thank you very much for listening, guys.
Sorry, my mouse wasn't working. Thank you, guys. Please keep the full screen, me.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, just keep it on that page is fine. All right. I guess, please.
Well, again, very good work. I guess I have just a couple of questions in terms of geometry. So, I guess a little bit of critique as well. So in the actual form of the geometry that you're trying to convey, if you go to the maybe the floor plan that you guys were showing, the ground, you had like the ground and level 1. Yeah. So in this geometry, I know you guys are thinking about the rigidity of, the building's very rigid and you wanted something to be more organic, but is there a process of understanding the curvatures that you guys are actually portraying? Is there a, a thought out logic of why the geometry does what it does?
I think we just wanted to try and keep it as free flowing as possible, and sort of we drew some inspiration from like a cloud light structure, and we wanted that lightness and transparency. So we sort of drew that as our main inspiration to come up with the sort of form.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I guess the next level would be, for instance, I noticed that you're trying to connect to that stairwell on the first level, and maybe what can actually help, form in the other one, the top one. So what can actually help you develop a form, even if it's an organic form, is understand probably, connections through. So journeys for the passenger, for the person. So where do you actually want them to go from A to B? And then, that maybe in a, it starts to dictate a journey, a curvature, a form. Also maybe viewpoints. Maybe you're trying to frame a view somewhere, and then that might have probably formed I'm gonna call it a blob, but the outer blob where that one there, maybe you're thinking, maybe you would think that since you're at a higher plane, maybe you would want to see something at that level, and maybe it actually extrudes its way a little bit further outside of the space of the building to actually see something outside of it. So maybe, again, this is the next step kind of thing, but it's trying to understand that even though it's organic, it still has a function, or you would want to give it a function for the user, and give it a bigger purpose, and a stronger reasoning of why.
Yeah.
Because having an organic form, because again, I understand that, but then even you kind of would think, okay, then maybe it's about having a blob that ends up being spheres, and then how do these spheres, it's a balloon that's going out in 3 different directions. How big can it get? How small can it get? It's a bit of an exploration of, even if it is organic, even the organic forms have logic, or have a reasoning why. But yeah, and also I guess the other thing is, because you guys are going with the linear planes, parallel planes, in the I saw you guys have handrails, so good job. I'm very picky with handrails. But still, the spacing between them, I know you guys put glass on the floor, but maybe it is about putting glass on the sides as well, so things don't fall through, because the spacing that you guys had were actually quite large, at least from the perspective of the renders. So then maybe the sequencing, where you are closer to that corridor space, maybe it was a bit tighter or something, but yeah, I guess that's my thoughts.
Thanks, Cecilia.
Yeah. And I guess you could, like, if the actual rhythm of the planes, let's say it's about they're 300 mil spaced, which is about like a foot, then you could add an intermediary layer that only happens where handrails are needed, that only block that area, and then everywhere else you don't have to do that. But on others, I mean, I quite like the project in its and if anything, when I look at your planes, I quite like that they're not facing up and down. They're actually at an angle, and I really hope that that angle is because you're trying to maximize the sunlight as it penetrates and reaches the ground cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it would be great, like, if you go back to your section, yeah, exactly, that you actually maybe show the sunlight, and you show that it's facing north, and that you actually have thought about the best time period. Maybe it's I don't know, winter time, and a specific date, and you actually think that for the majority of the year, this is going to maximize the daylight as it penetrates, and that it's actually creating an enhancement by actually creating this walkway, an elevated walkway that communicates these 2 points. And there might be lots of benefits for that, specifically with girls that might have security issues and they don't want to be walking between these 2 buildings at night. By having an elevated walkway, you're in a way kind of creating like a little castle, a little bridge that protects the students so that they might not get mugged, or and it also creates this little breakout space on that little nook that you've created that is almost like a viewing platform. But I think I quite like the way that it, as a cloud, moves from the outside to the inside, and the boundary between the 2 spaces is not quite, it's not such a black and white. I quite like that threshold space that you've created. And I also like the fact that this object, or this, in a way, it's almost like a folly, which it has no function, but it has a function. It does almost everything in one go. It's a handrail, it's a floor, it's a ceiling, it's a wall, it's a column, it's almost everything. So it's almost like this universal system. It's almost very similar to the other project that we saw earlier that had a seriality of planes but had domes carved out. And that one was about a space and how you actually carve from it. So in yours, it was the opposite. It's like, how do you create an object?
Space.
Yeah. Yes. Right. It's actually almost opposite.
The complete
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah,
Yeah.
move. So I
That's
think it's quite, but at the same
interesting.
time, it created that little space here. That it is almost like a little room in there. I don't know what you do in there, but it looks almost like an
It's
info
stairs,
room.
That's
Oh,
the
it's a-
stair
that's the
spiral.
stair. Oh, okay, got it.
Sorry.
It's not shown on the section.
Yeah.
No worries. But yeah, it looks really good. Good job, guys. And I love the style of the sections on the left. It's actually quite poetic and quite nice.
Thank you.
I just have pretty similar comments. I think you guys did a good job, and the whole diagonal planes was a really great idea. I think the attempts at making it transparent was commendable, but I think the whole fact maybe is diagonal is probably not as convincing to me structurally, and how it's transferring loads and how it won't shear as plywood with rods sticking to it. The other kind of technical aspect of it that we wish could have seen, maybe I missed it in a millisecond, is maybe how the upper piece that's kind of sheltering the upper level on the outside is, how is it attached and how does it work? I think there is some lack of clarity in that area, and also how the inside part of the building kind of it's supported laterally, maybe on the side of the walls. But I think the biggest opportunity for me that was a little bit missed was how you could continue to draw from your inspiration of it being a cloud in your material explorations, instead of underpinning it by the precedent project that you reviewed. I think there was a lot of opportunities to explore what this could be like, maybe as a transparent fiberglass material, or perforated metal. Maybe you can still be slats, diagonal slats like this, but if it was perforated plywood or perforated timber, perforated metal, something that would convey this idea of lightness more successfully than timber, both visually and in a transparent way. So I think that could have been worth exploring a little bit more.
Thanks, George. That's a great comment. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Rick and group. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next group is Kerr. Sorry, it's a French word apparently. I can't pronounce it. Kerr. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Please turn on your camera and introduce yourself to us. Yeah, we have Cedar here in the middle, right hand, and we have James sitting in the corridor. Where are the others? Misakia?
Oh, she's muted.
I think they're
And Natural?
okay. I'm here now.
Great, Misakia.
Yeah,
So,
hi.
sitting under the skylight. And Natural?
That's saying that you might miss a group. Oh yeah,
Oh.
you missed one.
Yeah.
Ah, jeez. Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Totally my bad. Thanks, Gagana. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Oh boy.
It's all good. We'll wait a few more minutes.
And at the same time, please help me find Actual.
Yes,
right.
definitely.
Sorry, my bad. My apology. Please introduce yourself, Stratum.
Hi. Yeah, it's straight up, I think.
So the first one to show up is Ian. Yeah, and we have Kayla in the middle. And where are the other good mates?
Janice is waving.
Hi, I'm Janice.
Joining us from Hong Kong.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, hours earlier, so that's a 6:30 time.
Yeah.
And Caitlin.
I'm Caitlin.
Yeah, Caitlin's here. Oh, that's a fancy background. All right. Okay, off you go.
Strata, which is Latin for layers. Trying to get this. Taylor, we can't view it as full screen yet.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm not sure why.
Control.
That was why I said.
It's okay. Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Are you there, Caitlin?
Yeah. I'm going to accept. Yeah. Can you go to the inspiration page, Cal? Okay. So the inspiration for our design originally came from my postdoc study in the first half of the semester, which was in Connecticut. And so for my mid-semester presentation, I essentially tried to recreate that design to fit in with the AD building. And that's where our idea stemmed from. So this is the existing building showing the historical facade and the areas we are using. And the site plan gives a bit of context around the building and the overall shape of it. The pink highlighted area is where we intend on renovating. As you can see, it's quite an open space. And the green highlight obviously demonstrates how an individual will move through the building.
So our design concept is centered on three main elements. So light, twisting and turning, and then layering. We use these elements to manipulate the space and completely change one's experience once they enter the AD building. These elements are in focus in our initial concept sketch. The layers twist down from the skylights, down the walls and to the floor, and sunlight streams in various interesting ways.
So the first floor plan really focuses on how the layers are actually incorporated into the space and how it will affect the viewer's outlook and their behaviour. And the reflected ceiling plan emphasises on showing not only the rotation of the ceiling layers, but how the skylight layers actually twist and turn to create the unique light tunnels.
The roof plan displays the raised layers coming above the roof line as well as the layers that are below the glass dome skylights. Next.
In the east elevation, the historical facade is at the forefront, but we can see how the structure will pop out above the roofline to give a new and quirky addition to the building and its first impression. We wanted to give the first few sections some background context to show how concentrated our design is to the first floor, because we liked the fact that it was a bit of a hidden surprise because you have to actually go upstairs to get the full experience. So here we are facing north, south facing, and west facing. Then I've included a north facing sectional perspective that is more centralized on the actual modified area, and I think gives us a much better sense of the new space. And lastly, we have a 2-point sectional perspective that opens up the space even more to show those west and north walls a bit clearer.
So this first perspective, as well as the next one, both illustrate the different twists and turns that create the structure's layers. It's also hard to distinguish which are the ceiling layers and which are the wall layers. This reflected ceiling plan animation solely focuses on revealing how the layers move and rotate as they come downwards. And this sectional perspective animation gives an overall view of the space and shows how the contours mold and grow inside of it. These sun diagrams portray the skylight layers above the roof actually channeling the sunlight down into the space in different directions at multiple times of the day. When the sun goes down, the LED strip lighting that was installed will light up on numerous layers. So these are the materials we have chosen. We have spruce timber for the CLTs and new balustrade, and we plan to use either a sanding stone or to darken it. And we're replacing the existing with a reflective flooring, and you'll see why we decided that in the renders later. So onto the segmentation of the structure. This page gives an overall view of the steps taken to construct the layers. So we start with cutting the CLT layers with a CNC machine, then use a finger join to connect the pieces. Due to transportation restrictions, the layer would have to be split into 4 pieces. Then the quarters are joined together and the multiple layers are connected with screws. And the last one there is just a stack of 6 layers that are ready to be lifted inside the building. Dimensions of the timber, such as these ones, were created as well.
So put simply, this series of diagrams explains the overall construction process of the renovation, starting with removing the existing ceiling, roof, and stair balustrade, and securing the French pleat to the walls. As Caitlin mentioned, the CLT layers will be transported to the site in quarters and put together there. They are lifted into the foyer from the top, secured in place, and the new lighting wired into the building. A new stair balustrade is constructed along with the modified roof and skylights to finish it off.
So for the fixture, we decided to use French cleats. We estimate that it could hold up to 272 kilograms with 2 bolts, and the more bolts that are added on, the more weight the French cleat could hold. But we also chose this because it is easy to be customized and the material could be sourced easily. It is also very flexible as the CLTs are not permanently fixed in that position. The layers can be easily removed by just lifting up. So looking at the axonometric diagram here, the piece at the bottom of the French cleat with the bevel inclining towards the wall would be attached to the wall, and the remaining part would be screwed onto the CLT stacks of 6. So in more detail, here's a section showing the placement of the French cleats on one of the walls in the foyer area. You see here there's around 10 French cleats going across the walls and the CLT stacks. So this page shows the steps to create and install the French cleat. The French cleat is basically just a piece of timber cut at a 45-degree angle in the middle and supports all the way by creating a hanging system that hangs the CLTs on the wall. Next.
Earlier, the roof plan displayed the proposed roofs. The proposed area encounters with 2 separate roofs, gable-type roof in the foyer area and a flat roof in the hallway. We will be demolishing the ceiling and cutting down the trusses and the roof sheets within the proposed area. We chose to use a flat metal sheet roofing as our primary roofing material. On the right, there is a detail showing off on interconnection between both roofs. We have decided to add a parapet wall to both ends of the foyer area to insulate and not expose the CLT layers. The proposed roof will be supported by the CLT layers bolted to the flat metal sheet roofing. And the drainage for the proposed roof, we decided to add tunnel downpipe that will drain the water to the existing roof as shown earlier in the animation video. Next. We further investigated into natural light flowing inside the proposed area. For that, we have done some iterations and came up with a decision to use dome skylights. The great advantage is that it is easily blends with the CLT layers with its organic curvatures. The other benefit is that it assists to draw in light from several angles. Next. The main roofing materiality, the key for the roof we chose were these are readily available and durable for design. So flat metal sheet roofing, PVC waterproofing membrane sheet to cover the layers that are exposed above the roofing, and the last one shows the dome skylight, which uses safety glass.
And lastly, we get a more realistic portrayal of our design in the building and how all the materials work together. This is what the occupants see as they walk up the stairs into the foyer area. Walking from the corridor into the foyer. In the corridor, just waiting for class in the main foyer area. On the stairs. And then in the foyer again, once the sun is going down and the LED lights are on.
So this video shows a simulation of the renovated 80 building. As you walk up the stairs, the perception of the contours will change and there's no distinction between what is the ceiling and the walls. We also chose a highly reflected flooring, so it further blurs the line between the structure and the existing building and expand the space to make it feel larger, and also creates an illusion that it is surrounding its occupant fully to further enhance the experience. Our main intention of the design is to allow natural light to flow through the skylights as we invite more light into the space and make it more brighter and more welcoming. While throughout the day, the light will shine through the multiple skylights in different directions and create interesting patterns on the walls and floors. Nevertheless, we also extend the structure through the hallway to create a more continuous flow, providing a seamless experience. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for taking your time to listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Yes, please, the guest. One thing. Can you jump to the hand drill drawing?
Which one?
The hand drilling, the with the drill, the detail drawing with the drill.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I suspected. Yeah, I thought you changed the drill bit. I just surprised how detailed it is. Good. I thought you actually a drill bit to use. I'm like that because I use drill a lot, and then I thought you use a different drill bit. You draw it to that degree. Wow. That's cool. All right. Stop. I'll shut up and let the guest talk.
It reminded me a lot of the Aesop in Flinders Lane. Is that still there in Melbourne? I haven't been in like years.
No.
The Aesop store in Flinders Lane.
Oh, yeah.
Eastland?
Aesop.
Flinders Lane.
Yeah, but there are so many Aesop.
The ones that have like the card.
It's probably one of the
The corrugated cardboard in Flinders Lane. One of the first one.
Yeah, I think it's still there. I'll send it to the chat.
Yeah. I wanted to know, I think this project and the second project are the two only projects that have kind of non-structural or non-functional kind of applications of the material. They're more about making the space, and whereas the second project used timber in quite a light way, it's quite dense here, and I think both physically and visually, as person perceiving the space as well as structurally trying to keep that weight of all that timber up, doesn't seem very intuitive. And I was just wondering what kind of drove the material choices, considering if it's not supporting the weight of the person or supporting the weight of the roof. It could have been anything else, maybe, and whether there was a design decision in terms of some inspiration or some points that that kind of drew you to the choice of material.
Yeah, we spruce timber for the CLT layers just because it was one that was usually used to make the CLTs. We had originally, we were going to use spotted gum timber because of its beautiful grain, but we thought that because of the confusion of our structure, it wouldn't be appreciated that much.
We did also investigate using a bunch of different materials, like highly reflective materials for the layers itself, and things like recycled cardboard, recycled plastic. And we looked at all of those and simulated them in renders, and we just decided that we liked the look of timber and we liked that we could source it from Australia, and it's a renewable resource as well. So I think that's just what drove our decision mainly.
Yeah, because in terms of holding it up, it you know, as I said, I think functionally if you do something else like perform acoustically or something, if it was made of foam or something else, that could be maybe easy to install, as it's not taking on any kind of loads really compared to some of the other projects which have those kind of requirements. But yeah, that was all. But otherwise, yeah, good work. And kind of thinking, I guess this had more a kind of introspective intervention rather than some of them which had more kind of facade or exterior interventions. So I guess there was enough to resolve in one way, which is why I'm zoning into this particular issue, where some of them had to deal with, you know, water and structure in the exterior and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. If you go back to your interior renders, yeah, I mean, I think there's not much you can do when you're doing a historical renovation on the outside, but there's a lot you can do in the inside. And I think a project like this definitely shows how you have completely changed the environment just by playing with the wall, ceilings, and the treatment of materials. And I think you have definitely enhanced that space. And I would want to go into this space every day if I would be at Swinburne. I think one of the most important reasons why we are architects is because we want to create spaces that actually enhance people's lives and that actually uplifts their soul and makes them want to go there every day. Like, I don't know if you guys have a favorite building or a favorite spot in Melbourne where, for example, for me, it's like sometimes the libraries in Melbourne, especially the city library, and you just go inside and sometimes you just want to go in there for a lunch break because the space is so beautiful. They just want to hang out. And I think this space is, if they actually build this, will be a great addition to Swinburne. And I think I just love wood, and by actually playing with wood, which is it's not a man-made material. It's very natural, so it has a lot of different veins, and depending on how you cut and from which part of the tree, it's going to give you different types of textures. I know that in your project, you're showing it with one texture. You can see that there's like lines happening, but actually you can almost play with where from the tree you cut and how you actually select the veneers. There's like a gazillion ways, like book match veneers. There's all kinds of ways in which you can select how to cut. It could also just be a veneer applied to a different material, but I think it would be better if it's just pure wood, like solid pieces. And I guess to make it lighter, just make it hollow. And it's not really like a massive sheet of timber, but it's actually a hollow and it's core belling. So if you look at the process of core belling, you put a brick on, and that's how in Egypt, a long time ago, thousands of years, that's how they did arches. By just putting a brick on top of the next one, and it core bells a little bit, and it can cantilever, and there's actually nothing holding it but gravity. And that's also how you do those really old stairs that are cantilevering. Like one thread holds the next, holds the next, holds the next. So you can do the same thing on this one. Like one layer can hold the next, and then it holds the next, and then it holds the next, until it transfers all the gravity down all the way to the foundations. And then just make it lightweight by selecting a wood that has a very low density, and also by carving it on the inside. And instead of making it out of sheets, make it out of actual, like maybe 100 mil CNC strips, and it would also reduce your cost and everything by reducing the weight down as well. But I think spatially, it's just brilliant. I mean, and also there's a lot of benefits to this. Acoustically, it would also be an improvement because I think it refracts sound rather than absorb it or reflect it. I think it's scattering it, yeah. So the sound source never comes back to the point and all of that. And I think it's going to be good. And also it has a lot of light. It almost looks like walking through the Grand Canyon. Yeah. And those bridges, and those little spaces that are produced. And I think, if anything, my comment would be that maybe you could turn some of those into balconies. And I guess there could be like a little room created on the roof. And then at some points you can maybe penetrate this and access the roof.
It's almost like an auditorium.
Exactly, it almost becomes like an auditorium. You can now use this space to give speeches. Because it reminds me when you go to the opera and you look at the theater, there's always these little balconies on the left and on the right of the proscenium, and it just looks really good. I don't know. I only have positive things to say, but it looks really good. Good job, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Those are all amazing points. Things that we would like to look into, like especially the acoustics. It'd be very interesting to investigate further.
Yeah. Right. Let's try to keep track on time. Thank you, guys. Next group, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that I don't jump the group. It's Curb. French name. And sorry, you have to introduce yourself again. So that's Cedar. Inside her design, that's the exit. And we have Nisakia under the skylight she designed. And James at the entrance.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, there you go.
Oh, Natural's here. That's the building of AB.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's your turn to present. Thank you.
No worries. Good evening, everyone. My name is Seda, and tonight my group Nisakia.
Screen Seda. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One sec. Bear with me. start sharing the screen. Give me a sec.
Yep.
Get yourself ready. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'll start again. Good evening, everyone. My name is Seda, and tonight my group, Nisakya, Achol, and James, will be presenting the AD building renovation. So this is the Hawthorn campus, and our site is within the AD building as outlined. And we have some photos of the existing building, which is the front entrance on the left, and on the right we have the rear back entry. This is our site analysis, which shows the circulation, main road, and the Glenferrie station. And we have some internal photos of the existing site. And as you can see, the passageway doesn't have a sense of flow, so we wanted to enhance that further.
So our design was influenced by the flow of water, and in the existing building, the walls were straight and they lacked spatial flow. So we wanted to enhance that by recreating the walls into more fluid-like structures. This is looking at our existing building more closely and showing the main area we are working on. And this is the renovation process. So the first diagram shows the existing wall of the building, and our concept indicates that we transform these highlighted walls into fluid-like curves, which increases the fluidity of the building and the flow of the passage. This is an exploded view of the proposed form of our design. And these are some of the precedent studies we looked at, looking at how the walls peeled off to create new spaces within the buildings. And these are some of the materials that we explored throughout our structure.
The digital production sort of follows up from the previous page of the inspiration. So the water flow form is carried out onto the structural form, as you can see. And the tectonic wall structure diagram shows the passage path of the external and internal. The final tectonic outcome shows the finished outcome of the external render. The final tectonic design structure shows the finished outcome of the interior render.
Right, so we're going to move into the 2D drawing, starting with the floor plans. This is the existing ground floor plan, illustrating the rigid constraints, with the focus being on the main circulation path from the front entrance to the rear entrance. Now we transition to the proposed ground floor plan, which illustrates the transformation from old to new, with the main circulation path now incorporating enhanced spatial qualities. Again, following the same process, this is the existing first floor plan, and this is the proposed first floor plan, showcasing the form of the proposed staircase and first floor plate.
Moving into sections. So this is a section cutting through the hallway back entry. And this is section B, which is cutting through the main entrance foyer. We have our east elevation and west elevation. So the east elevation is showing the front facade, and the west elevation is showing the back rear entry. And the roof plan is enhancing the amount of lights coming into the main circulation with the use of skylights, as you can see it's outlined.
This is an exploded axonometric diagram showing all the components of our structure. And this is exploring the main qualities of our design, so to enhance the experience for the users. This was exploring different brick material colors, and we decided to proceed with the terracotta brick color. So this was our initial construction method, looking at different lightweight steel frame arrangements for the walls. So the first diagram shows using more steel frames to support the walls, whilst the second one uses less steel frames.
The potential construction system, following from the previous page, the diagram to the right shows the close-up detail of the structural components, joinery, and being that we've used the L plates. So dividing the walls into the prefabricated page. So we've chosen the paneling system, and we've wanted to reduce the excessive use of the steel frames, the cost, and the load reduction. That was achieved by segmenting the prefabricated walls into wall panelings, as you can see, and we've just roughly evened them out. The final construction system, following again from the previous page, shows that shown to the right consists of the lightweight steel and segmenting the walls into panels. So section B shows the finished results and the detailed diagrams of how it would sort of go together. So the final chosen structure system, this is again a breakdown, but more looking towards the components and the elements that sort of hold the whole frames together. So to the left, we look at the L steel plates, how it sort of connects to the square hollow section, and in terms of joining them all together, how to hold up the whole panel.
These diagrams illustrate how we're proposing to attach the brick panel to the steel framing with the use of flat steel brackets and bolts. Moving on here, we show the processes involved in making a single brick panel. This will be done using timber formwork and an array of timber blocks that allow us to achieve the appropriate form. After this is set up, one layer of bricks is placed, and then a substrate layer of concrete is poured on top to bond the brickwork together. For the external walls, we decided to use an alternative method of construction, as both of these walls were freestanding and not attached to these existing walls. This alternative method closely represents a traditional in situ approach using a reinforced concrete strip footing, a retaining wall, reinforcement bars, and core-filled masonry bricks.
Moving on to our render perspectives of our final design, looking at the rear entry. And this is an internal view render at the rear entry looking outwards. You can see the materiality.
This is the main entry hall, so looking at the first floor balcony. And this is looking down more into the hallway of the first floor.
This shows a render of the internal view from the first floor level, and that also shows the intersection of the hallway. So the second view shows the internal view again of the ground floor. However, it's also showing the hallway looking upwards.
And here we're placed within the entry foyer, looking towards the front facade entry doors. Here we're again placed within the entry foyer, instead looking directly up at the large skylight above. And this perspective is of the same space, however, at a different angle, capturing different qualities of light and shadow. This perspective is again of the rear entry space, looking up at the curved exterior walls, showing the relationship and the materiality of the existing and proposed architecture. Lastly, we'd like to finish off with an animated section that will take us from the rear of the building all the way through to the front. Thank you for listening, and we hope you all enjoyed our presentation.
That was really great. I thought the visuals were very, very impressive, and also the level of resolution in the details. The structure kind of reminded me when I visited the Frank Gehry building here in Sydney when I was under construction. They framed out the bricks in the exact same way. So that was really good to know that you guys had looked into these components. But I think most of all, what was really striking was the way you had put together the presentation was really clear in delivering what you wanted to convey with your ideas, and the graphics and the presentation as a whole was very, very clear. And I think it served your design really well, which was also really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that the UTS building that you mentioned, Josh?
Yeah, the business school, yeah.
Yeah, the chalk wing building.
Yeah, that's right. They had the same kind of steel framing behind, but I think theirs was facing bricks, they were just like, like little brick tiles, really, not really full size bricks.
Right.
They were able to rescue a company that was going bankrupt, and thanks to that project, it brought brickwork back again, and that company was able to.
Is that a real story?
Yeah.
Oh,
is that right?
Brickwork is a lost art in Australia. It's dying actually worldwide. So that company was able to train and get craftsmen and interns in it, and it rescued.
That's interesting.
Good work, guys. It also reminds me of the work of Eladio Dieste. That's why Shan pasted in the chat room. And he was doing this a long time ago in I think it was Uruguay, something like that. And
okay.
I just love brick. I think it's such a good material. It's really sustainable in the way that it is made. It comes from the earth. It also has thermal mass, so it stores energy. You can like night cool it, and then it releases the cool during the day, or the opposite, like it stores heat during the day and then releases at night when you need it. It's actually a really good material. And the way that you've used it, it's also quite nice. It has this texture, and I think that space is going to have a really good acoustic properties by having all of these faceted elements similar to the scattering that was done on the previous project. And the fact that you have this skylight bringing all this light into the space means that as the light in the sun moves throughout the morning to the evening, all of those little textures on your wall are going to actually be moving around when the shadows move. So that means that this space is not going to be constant. It's always going to be reflecting the outside environment inside. So it will be actually quite interesting, because every time you take a photograph, you would never be able to get the same image. It's always going to be changing. And also, if the light is blue outside, it's going to be blue inside, and so on and so on. So I just think it's a really good project. I also quite like how minimal your intervention was. Like if you go back to that image of the outside, how you only the next one,
the roof,
where it shows the roof.
Your last
or the previous, my bad.
Yeah,
that one.
Sorry, your section animation, James.
Oh, this. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Because it shows. I quite like how it's very minimal. Like it looks like it's only doing a little tiny line that goes above the roof. And you didn't dismantle the entire roof. You only did a little addition to express that corridor on the outside. And it was quite surgical, your intervention. You didn't just go there and drop the nuclear bomb and explode it. You kind of went very like, I only want to touch this, that, and then the places where you touched it were actually quite successful. So
and the material speaks well to the heritage. So the intervention doesn't seem it doesn't do the drastic intervention where sometimes you go, because you have heritage, then I'll go with modern cold elements. You actually went with quite warm and rich elements like brick.
I think that was definitely like one of the driving factors of the design, was that we wanted to really appreciate the existing building's materiality, and just kind of like enhance that through like the new architecture basically. So yeah.
Exactly, and I really appreciate the sequencing of how you explain the construction of it, and that it does use steel framing, which we haven't seen previously. But at the same time, it's still innovative in the way of how the brick set is done. So yeah, you've created a wonderful space. It's really great.
Yeah. And can you go back to stair elevation render interior?
Yep. Bear with me.
Yeah, it's just
This
very,
one?
yeah, like that amazing space.
That is just, I mean, gorgeous. That's a wonderful moment, the way that you framed that door. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe it will be the handrail. That
I
think,
kind of like the contrast.
You know, like
I actually saw it and
yeah.
I appreciated the fact that, you know what, the handrail speaks. It's an element within this, and it's contrasting, but at the same time, it's very slick, and it's still, you know, carrying that idea of linear and minimal intervention. It's enough to, you know, speak to the metal around the door, and contrast very well with the brick.
Yeah.
And then you tied in the stair beautifully, even with that door. So even the thread of the stair, you kind of can feel that it's following that door down. It's excellent.
Yeah. And this reminds me of these little pastel images that come from the work of Ricardo Bofill in Spain.
Okay.
A lot of his work, he tends to make them out of concrete, but painted like in, let's say, a pastel pink or a pastel orange. And his projects look almost surreal. And your project, in a way, Bofill, Ricardo Bofill with double. Okay. And then if you go to images, look, you see, like it almost looks like a pastel image, and you don't know what you're looking at, and it's just actually the sunlight that is painting the space.
Yeah.
And everything is the same color, almost like their render, and just by the graduations of light and shadow, you get different hues of orange. But in reality, everything has the same color.
Oh, okay.
All right.
It's beautiful.
Nice.
Excellent.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So moving on, next team we have the last two, almost there. Terrarium. I like terrarium. So please, team, introduce yourself. So review yourself. Hello.
Oh,
To the terrarium team. Okay. So we have the first one, David, under his skylight. And where are your teammates?
Are they there?
Here.
Oh,
okay, we have
there.
Tanisha flying outside of the building. Okay, fair enough. And
yeah,
Uday?
I'm here, but don't have camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's not very tech savvy. Okay.
He's the ghost. He's the ghost of the AD building.
Where's Colleen?
Colleen, is she here?
Must be.
Yeah, she was. Oh, maybe she's on mute.
Yeah, unmute her. Okay.
Oh, you're on mute, Colleen.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, Colleen's there at the entrance
All right.
of into renovation project. All right, it's
Let's get started.
Share screen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, share my screen. That'd be good.
Yes, please.
Okay.
We'll share the presentation.
All right. Okay. So welcome and good evening, everyone. My name's David.
My name is Tanisha.
My name is Colleen.
My name is Uday.
And tonight we are proud to introduce Project Terrarium. Project Terrarium will seek to improve the spatial quality and attempt to unify the space.
The chosen building for this project is the AD building in Hawthorne campus of Swinburne University, as indicated in red.
The building is located along John Street, opposite the library, and is a very populated area during school hours.
We've chosen to mainly focus on the front area of both levels of the building. As from what we've surveyed, we've concluded it lacks unity between the levels and has a potential for improvement in user experience.
As we plan to focus the updated change in the front section of the building, we'll be removing the staircase, the front areas of both levels, and part of the cement of the roof.
Design concepts. To open up the area, we use the Klein bottle as a conceptual reference. As a 4D shape, it will enable the floor levels to interconnect, and by morphing the bottle to the site, it can determine the area for the spatial quality improvement.
following concepts were explored. Concept 1. Concept 1 has 2 external skylights, 1 internal skylight, 1 internal window on the first level looking down to the ground level, and an internal garden. The aim was to allow for natural sunlight to enter the building and airflow with the use of the opening from the roof leading into the indoor garden. The space has many spatial benefits and is very easy to navigate. The middle structure extends into the roof, creating very interesting geometry.
Here we have our second developed concept. It has a slender and sleek design that features a staircase running up the center of the building, offset to the bottom part of the structure, designed to seamlessly flow together. Leading up to the roof, the structure splits in two, forming 2 openings that shape the roof. Fluidity is the main goal for this concept.
Concept 3. This concept explores the placement of stairs and how it wraps and merges with the building, using similar design aspects as the design before. This outcome is different. The wall for the stairs, visually interesting, encases the space with its lines and form.
A 360-degree look at all the concepts gives us a complete understanding of the form and features, and also how they compare. The flow lines shown in yellow and green identify how people and the space circulate around in harmony.
As natural light is a key feature to unifying the space, we've chosen to go with the first concept, as its roof to ground level structure best interprets spatial connectedness within its levels as well as through exterior and interior spaces. By allowing light to come in from the top of the building, from the already existing window, into the extruding window structure to then the ground floor.
The moving sections here shows us how the structure undulates from one end to the other, as well as emphasizing its connectivity between levels.
The sections here showcase the relationship between the 2 levels and how interact with the existing space to form an entirely new space. The contrasting form of the new structure and the existing building is striking and imposing. This is the northeast section, southeast section, southwest section, northwest section. The structure's position within the site and how the existing building's structure is altered to form the design.
This axonometric shows a breakdown of the structure with its components. This showcases how the structure comes together as an architecturally coherent piece.
The new ground floor plan will allow people to firstly see the terrarium upon entering the building as it's set in the middle of the floor space. This contrasts the empty space of the existing floor plan and already improves the experience as natural external elements are brought in an interior setting. The spiral staircase allows for the form's composition to not solely rely on walls and gives access to a 360 view of all the structure's curves. In the first level floor plan, the lack of wall support is also benefited by giving access to the existing window. The extruding window looking down from the ground floor sits parallel, thus enabling people to experience both interior and exterior spaces.
The new roof plan with its panels on site. The reasoning behind the roof windows is to properly integrate the use of the funnel opening system rather than a hole on the roof. We thought it would be wise to implement these protruding windows that were angled specifically to allow sunlight into the terrarium and the first floor.
The following render is the exterior view of the roof on site. This is a view from the ground floor looking into the terrarium.
This is looking up through the terrarium into the above window. Second level at the top of stairs looking towards window. This is a shot of stairs from ground floor.
Construction. The cladding we have chosen for this structure is a proprietary system called Shapeshell in a white glossy finish. Shapeshell is an advanced composite cladding system designed for projects with complex forms that demand precision. It has been used in many projects around Melbourne of similar complexity. The panel itself is thin and lightweight, which also minimizes the overall weight of the structure.
The frame will be made from steel members going horizontally and vertically through the form. The method of construction is substantial in build and allows us to create the complex geometry the structure takes, inspired by the following projects on the left. So here we have the structural form and the structural frame with the panels.
Through the panel system, the smooth texture and abstract shape of the form can be achieved. Broken down into quads, all the form's curvature and angles can be executed. An interlocking system will be used to attach the panels to the structure via a clip-in system.
The stair construction will consist of a steel system similar to the main structure. The steel stair joint will be welded onto a metal beam attached to the main framework. The stairs are designed to be cantilevered to cater to the structural load relevant to the building, while also being harmoniously integrated into the design.
The windows in the roof portion of the structure are double glazed to deal with the varying Melbourne weather. The system itself is based off the Amos Rex Art Museum in Helsinki, which features a circular C-section connected to the structure itself that supports the window frame. So this is a render of the skylight looking up into the roof from the first level. And this is another render of the terrarium on the ground floor.
Here we have the first floor window of the structure facing the external window. And on the right, we have the first floor window looking down into the terrarium. Thank you for listening.
And that's it. Thank you.
That's it?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Thank you. Now to our guest. Perhaps we can start with George.
That was really great. I think this is the first kind of project with fiberglass today. So that was good to see something different. I think keeping it simple was really good. I enjoyed the filmmaking process. Obviously, there was some studies that went into it in terms of how you put it together, but also in shaping the form. I guess some of the renders and the views maybe don't have the textural context in terms of the richness that the other projects kind of emphasize, but you know, I could understand that wasn't the focus of the project. This was more about making an alien object within space, more than you know, and working on that contrast rather than, you know, working with that constraint within the project. So, you know, that was interesting to see.
I guess to continue that, the fact that it is so alien, it's actually quite interesting. You know, it's this thing that is creating life in the middle of this atrium, I guess. And again, to be a little bit picky, if it is about that, then it would have been interesting to see, you know, that greenery that you guys illustrated. And again, it's probably just me being nitpicky a little bit, but it would have been good to see it, to, you know, illustrate it a bit more lush, a bit more, you know, if it is a terrarium, then you would have wanted to really be something that's taking over that space. So a greenery that's actually, you know, a parasite within this environment. So it's something that's growing within there. So you really take that concept and really like push it to, you know, it's something that's going to grow in itself and be its own thing while everything else is happening around it. Also, the fiberglass is also very interesting. It's a very interesting material. and you can really push the limits in terms of form. And I see that you guys have done that. But yeah, I guess that would be a little bit like if you are bringing something so alien, then you know really push that limit.
Yes,
you know, if it's a terrarium, you know, make it be this thing, this live thing that's living within this historic building.
Can you go back to your concept section?
Which one?
Concept section.
This one?
Oh, no, a section.
Oh,
Concept.
section.
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. So that's what cicada really means. Like you should have the luck, you know. I was always imagining, whoa, you know,
something growing,
yeah, exactly,
creeping up, its way.
That's the
through.
word, creeping up. You know, like really, like taking, you know, even crawling on this window.
Yeah, embracing that geometry, because the geometry itself is going to dictate what this greenery that you're placing in is going to do. So it's kind of, you wanted to see it take a bit more life, because right now it looked more like a, you know, it is a light well with some greenery at base, but if it is take that life of terrarium, it is to, you know, just make it grow and take on this parasitic kind of feel. Yeah.
I have terrarium. They do grow on the wall and just creep
Yeah, exactly.
Up.
They just keep going and they
Yeah.
just embody and they just take up the whole space of what you've allowed it to grow into. But no, it's quite fascinating. This is very different to the presentation that we just saw, where the materiality actually is completely opposite and doesn't actually speak to itself, but the concept is so strong that it is something, you know, it is something completely different. And it wants to be different. It doesn't want to blend in. It wants to be its own thing. So you've represented that very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't add. I think to add to that, really great work and good use of the space. I mean, I know that you guys have selected fiberglass or composites as your material, and that you've done a double skin almost, where you have a monocoat structure that has an outside and inside skin, stretched skin. I almost feel maybe on this one it would have been interesting to approach it as a stone project, maybe pre-tension stone, or if you would have just kept the fiberglass, that the fiberglass was a bit thicker, but it's actually structural, and you don't have to then do all of that structure that you see in the inside and then a double skin. So that, because I mean fiberglass or even if it's carbon based as well, is actually quite structural. But
could it be
yeah.
Oh, could it be flooring as well? Would it be structural enough to like support a floor?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, for example, cantilevered stairs that they do in the UK for centuries, it's all, you know, cantilevered stone, one on top of the other, and you can do actually quite fluid shapes. You could also do, for example, it could have been all 100 mil thick stone, and then you put a cable inside of metal that is pre-tensioned, and then you install it, and then at the end they pull that cable, and it keeps it all compact and structural. But I mean, that will be for the next stage of this project. I think for this stage, I think you were asked to approach it from a cladding point of view, where you have a primary structure, a secondary structure, and then a cladding layer.
Yep.
And I think it's a legitimate approach to how to do it, and it's quite successful. I quite like the way that you've approached the windows, and that you didn't neglect light, views to the sky, and that you've created that very neat little pocket for planting in the lobby. So I think well done.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Okay, lucky last, interlocking group. Please review yourself and show us yourself within your design space. So,
Hello.
All right, we have Nikki underneath the canopy. And where are your group mates? Oh wait, don't share yet. Introduce yourself first, so we can, you know. So we see Nikki and.
Yep.
Peter, right?
Yep, I'm Peter.
Zach is not inside his own design, but that's okay.
No, it just all gross out.
Okay. So where are your last team member?
Yeah, Jack.
Ah, nice. Yeah, Jack's in the garden, as you can see. All right, please begin your presentation.
Okay. So the site in which we are going to be undertaking our renovation is within the AD building located on Swinburne University's Hawthorne campus. Here are some reference photos for you to get an understanding of the exterior and interior of the proposed site. To your right, you'll also see a diagram which highlights our intended areas for renovation. These include the main foyer, the level 1 hallway, and the exterior courtyard. Before we delve too deep into our concept design, we wanted to understand how the building was constructed and how we would best renovate the building to accompany our design. In the sectional views, you'll be able to see all the structural parts of the building, including all the trusses and wall studs in these two sections. The axonometric diagram illustrates how the roof of the building is constructed, as this was going to be our main renovation to the existing building. Once we had worked out how it was all built, we wanted to let more natural light into the foyer and first floor hallway, as they were quite dark during the day. So we put 2 skylights in. We opted for a large skylight spanning the length of the hallway, as well as a smaller one central to the foyer area, which you can see in these sectional views here. The axonometric diagram will also give you an understanding of how the skylights will be erected and placed into the existing building. Throughout our concept generation, we found extra parts that needed renovating to accompany our design, and these include the level 1 window, the rear entrance, and the garden bed in the rear courtyard. This here shows the materials in which we are intending to use within our AD building renovation.
Here we are able to see how the structure sits within the site, as well as the new proposed skylights. The AD building is located within one of the most busiest locations in Swinburne, with the nearby Swinburne Walk that leads to Glenferrie Station.
This is the concept of our design. It's a waffle grid structure which starts from the front foyer and extends out to the back. The design was intended around natural light and creating more circulation within and outside the building via the new seating structures and at the rear outdoor area, as well as on the front, as well as on the first floor foyer.
The ground floor, we are able to see the relationship between the rooms and how the structure will flow through the site. The human figures on the plan allow us to determine a sense of scale and the traffic pattern throughout the structure. The first floor plan displays the skylight locations from above and the waffle structure that flows along the hallway. And this plan is displaying the reflected ceiling, and here we can see how the skylights are beyond, allowing the natural lighting to come through with 600 by 600 spaces between the interlocking panels.
The main intention for creating our sections was to show the form of our structure, where light was going to impact our spaces, and to highlight the structural changes to the building that needed to take place. So this section shows our proposed skylights over the main corridor on the first floor, which is our main source of natural light. It conveys how both internal and external structures connect with the existing building and how we have utilised the space around them. This section shows the skylight over the void in the main foyer. The skylight is positioned over the column to aid in creating different shadows over the duration of the day. And the wall structure in the background also gives an indication of how the column relates to the structure. And the main focus of this section is to show how the column supports our structure. The column is load bearing, so it needs to be deep enough to take the weight of the panels and the structural members above it. We intend to cut out a portion of the existing slab so our column can go deep enough into the ground. The east elevation shows the front facade of the AD building, and you can see how our proposed skylight impacts the front view. And the west elevation shows how our structure sits within the back entrance and the surrounding building.
The panels flowing through the hallway are connected to the existing double brick wall using dual thread lag screws. The wood screw thread provides a secure fixing point to the timber panels, whilst the machine thread is joined through the brick wall. These connection points are divided at 420 centers at the back of the panels and are not visible to the eye, allowing the structure to appear seamless. As you can see, the panels are lifted off the ground slightly to allow for movement during the structure's lifetime.
The diagram to the left shows one of the panels from the external structure. The dashed lines going through the middle of the panels indicate where the intersecting panels sit. It shows the placement of brackets, steel rods, and the location of each finger join. Our material comes in 2400 by 1200 sheets, so we opted for a finger joint connection to connect the pieces together, which is shown by the detail to the right. As our structure is broken up into an exterior section and an interior section, we need to further support the panels that cantilever away from the columns. We will use steel rods with a 20 mm diameter that intersect at the top and bottom of each panel, as shown by the axonometric diagram. So when the panels intersect each other, we intend to connect them with connection brackets. The axonometric diagram to the left demonstrates where each bracket is located on the panels, and we will use M16 bolts to secure them in place. And these drawings focus on the segmentation of our structure. The panels shown in these drawings were put into 4 categories. So the dashed lines indicate the size sheets of our chosen material, which allowed us to see exactly where the joins would be. When we were then able to come up with an algorithm, so we knew which panels would intersect each other. And these drawings can also be used for the CNC cutouts.
This is our exterior render, which shows the entirety of the outdoor structure. Next. This render showcases the seating area we had created. This is in hopes that it creates more interaction as an area for social activities, working, or any other task. Next. This is the ground floor foyer area with a column and the staircase. Next. This is the first floor foyer with another setting area and the waffle panels running across the ceiling as well as the left wall. And the first floor corridor with the waffle panels running along the ceiling and the wall. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, group. Thank you. So now our guests.
As you went through the presentation, I was having comments myself on, for instance, the scale that you guys used and the grid. But I was pleasantly surprised as it moved on how it actually fit and worked. So, for instance, because in that first view that you show the floor plan, and you see that the grid is actually you just kept that same grid. I was kind of questioning, well, maybe it could be something that changes in sizing and sequence, but it actually, when you go internally, it actually works quite well. So you actually create those shelves, and even in the ceiling, it creates a good ceiling grid. It actually blends in very well. I also appreciate how the scale of both columns that you did, it actually works very well in terms of understanding structurally that the scale of those columns, you can actually perceive it as comfortable enough that it's supporting that ceiling on top of you. So I think that's a very good sense of scale that you guys presented there. Also, the way that you didn't actually land your column to the ground I found very interesting, because you actually added that extra detail of actually putting and somewhere for the columns to actually land, and that created an extra detail. I found very, very appealing as well. Also, I just lost what I was saying. Oh yeah, so with the I noticed that you guys did those the detailing on the timber, because we were just discussing now that there's a lot of projects that work with timber, but then you really most just went to nails, like bolts and nails, on actually bringing the timber together. But you guys actually explored how to do a bit more joinery detailing into the timber, not just bringing them together. So I found that that's really good. I thought that maybe that secondary joinery that you guys added, if you go to that joinery detail that you guys have, I thought maybe you actually might not need it. The structure might have been enough. It would have been enough with just the interlocking joints. Yeah, these guys might not be needed actually. So it's something to just think about, maybe, because sometimes you would think that timber is actually quite strong. If you continue looking into those joinery of timber, it actually, once it's in, it's locked in there, and it actually reacts. It reacts even to humidity, and timber is actually really, really a smart material that way, where it reacts very well to itself. So you might, like these second joineries, you might not even need it to just have that interlocking joint. So yeah, no, I think it's really good. You guys, Alex?
Yeah, can you go back to the view from the entrance on the outside? The renders.
That one?
The render from the outside of the
stair.
back of the building.
You can see that outside stair, that one.
Yeah, these renders, I think, yeah, I quite like the way that you've approached the existing entrance and the approach to the building. In a way, you were quite conservative on the way that it looks from the outside, but very avant-garde in the way that it looks on the inside. And I also quite like the way that you respected the existing stair change of level, and how you actually created
the render with that platform that you created.
Yeah, the
at the
next
back.
view.
The next view, I believe. The little sitting area where everyone gathers.
That's really good.
Yeah, that view. That's a very powerful view. Look at the way the shadow looks on the ground, and it quite highlights that slender column that you've created, where your roof almost comes down and dips. I quite like how you've selected the direction of the structure to accentuate the way that it actually comes down, and then it creates this little nucleus in the center where people can sit, and it in a way helps the circulation by actually forcing people to either go straight or going around it. It's just a really well thought little detail, and also the way that you've selected those windows and the entrance, and you can actually see through to the interior of the second story, and also through to the interior of the ground story, and just really well done. And it's just a very elegant selection of curves. I quite like that you didn't just curve it, but you actually almost by hand, like an author, went in and sculpted this to look quite beautiful. So well done. And also the materials look really great as well.
And it kind of speaks to what I was saying, I think, to one of the previous teams, how you can create a family just through your design. So the bench bench seating integrating itself to this little resting spot. So it speaks enough to you for you to know that it's part of the design, but it's not too literal. It's not taking exactly what you're doing with the roof and the columns. It's actually just finding a subtle way of integrating itself to the design. So I think that's very well done.
Yeah.
Do teach them why they shouldn't be using screw with timber.
Oh, Alex.
Oh. It's just that typically we don't tend to screw wood. We typically nail wood or glue it. And I think, I don't know, it's more to do with the fact that I think the alloys on screws have very poor shear and they tend to break because they don't give you any opportunity for movement, whereas nails can actually come in and out and they have friction.
I thought they play with the integrity of the timber, of the fiber. So once you actually like the screw, you know, the geometry of the screw, it actually it's working against the fiber. While a nail, like you say, is just in and out. It's not affecting the integrity of the timber.
Yeah, that also contributes. But if you look at to Europe, it's counterintuitive, but they grab massive pieces of timber and like there's a company called Schleich-Bergman. I think Schleich-Bergman. No, not Schleich-Bergman. Forgot the name. They're one of the largest. They did that Shigeru Band project that one of your teammates showed. But they typically just nail massive nails across to hold two pieces of wood together. Boomerang, yeah. And it's counterintuitive, but it's the way they nail wood together and to make roofs and connections. And even in Australia, you know that there's like nails that are specifically roof nails to connect wood to wood, and you typically don't screw. Screw is like for maybe joinery or things like that. But that's all right. I think it's really well put together, anyways.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah, thanks for the comments, guys. Appreciate it.
Anyone? Any final comment from you, Josh?
I just wanted to say similar things. I think there were some really good moments, like the modularization of the grids. You know, worked as bookshelves as one of your renders. But also looks like a great proportion for these lights that are on the edges of the wood. But yeah, I think in general we've seen tonight some very, very great projects. I thought I was very impressed for year 2 students at these outcomes that we've had today. I think just every team clearly had a different focus. Some of it was more in the resolution of the design, and some were in the decision making of the geometries, and others in different aspects of the design process. And that was really interesting to see these different goals in the project. And I'll just say, I think the last thing for university students is to be rebels, push boundaries and think beyond the precedents that you see, and think about what you can contribute to the sphere, and what ways you can reinterpret these ideas in different ways, because you have the freedom to, obviously you guys were asked to resolve some construction details and stuff, but don't let that limit your ideas, and just do what you want to do in the best possible way that you can. And this is the best time to do it.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks for that comment, George.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our lucky last. Can we all show our screen? At least we get to see everyone. It's quite nice, and this semester is such a hard time, and no one ever experienced anything like that before, and we didn't know what we're heading into, and we didn't know how we're going to do this. But I think with your effort and obviously Gagana's dedication, I think all the projects,
James, amazing guidance.
Yeah.
Come on.
So you want to make some final remark, Gagana, and I'll make some screen grab for this.
No, I just want to congratulate everybody. These projects are amazing. I don't know if in my second year I was doing so great. I think really, really good project. And it has been really hard, especially because kind of 2 weeks after we started, we had to transition completely online, and we had to actually change the whole concept of this unit. It was supposed to be something completely different. So thanks everybody that you bared with us. And thanks for the great efforts, because I think the results are pretty amazing.
Yeah, on that note, thank you for not dropping the class.
Yeah, thank you.
Jen,
yeah.
Jen, can I jump in and I just want to sort of thank the architects, Joshua, Cecilia, and Alexis for your feedback. It's really invaluable to sort of have that outside feedback. And then also just thank you, Chen, for putting this together, and Gagana for the support throughout the semester as well, just on behalf of my group and sort of, I think, most people. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And one final comment that I want to make is, you know, like I hope one thing that you learn from this semester is hopefully when you put in the hard work, what level you can achieve, right? So remember what level you are at, and from here on, don't settle for less. You know, like sometimes you just have to believe in yourself. If you put in the time, you will achieve a lot more than what you can imagine. So now that you've seen it, please do not settle for less for your next few semester.
And challenge everything, because everything is worth pushing the boundary on, I guess. And I'm talking about, because even, you know, coming from the experience where I'm at, I find, and that's kind of my drive personally, is that I work in an environment that wants to put rules and regulations around me, but I'm always constantly trying to push back and trying to do a great outcome, because at the end of the day, we're trying to do it, you know, we're creating amazing spaces for people. So even if they're putting a million rules around you, don't let that stop you. There's always space to push and to innovate. So, and seriously guys, for second year, this is amazing. I've done some projects with Jen, and like I was not where you guys are in my second year. So
no need to be honest.
Well, let's be honest, it's over. Everyone presented. Now we can be real.
Yeah. I don't think I am there even now.
No,
I have to say as well, and as you noticed, architecture is a competitive sport, and it's very different to, like, if you're an accountant. You know, you're not competing with the next accountant. In architecture, you're always competing with your mates. It's a friendly competition, but have you seen, like, that's how the profession is out there? There's firms, and they're all competing for work. You're also competing in competitions. So architecture studio is in a way teaching you to get your edge on that competitive sport that we call architecture. So have you seen, like, learn from your classmate, work with them, and so that they all make you or help you become better athletes at this sport?
Yeah, definitely. Design is also about discussion. So you elevate design when you share. And that's something that I bring into my practice every day. The project will evolve within your team. So you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. So always talk through your design. That's also a very important thing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Second year, imagine third and fourth.
Yeah.
All right. Hope you agree with that and keep working hard, and don't like I said, don't and let's thank our
and challenge your tutors
yourself, and let's so let's guys.
Oh, well done. We got there in the end.
Someone's playing music. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.